Welcome back to the channel. First, just want to say I really appreciate all the positive feedback and the kind messages that I've gotten on YouTube and Instagram from everybody. Again, I'm really new to YouTube and content creating, so you know, just from the first couple videos alone, I was kind of taken aback, frankly, by just the amount of positive feedback. So just really want to sincerely thank you guys. It's really encouraging and makes me want to keep this thing going. I'll also say if there are any topics or questions that you guys would want to see me break down or talk about, just let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to address whatever you guys want to hear about. For today's video, I wanted to chat about the factors to consider when choosing a high-ticket dropshipping niche. Choosing a niche for your business, no matter what industry you're in, is arguably one of, if not the most important factors. I have seen a lot of content around YouTube just over the past several years with thumbnails and titles that say something along the lines of top 10 high-ticket dropshipping niches of 2022, or these are the best niches going into 2023. Just a couple comments I have about those types of videos. For one thing, I'm more than happy to put together a video that lists out some product niches that I think would have the potential to be successful. That said, there's really no way to rank the top niches of 2022 or 2023, so I would take those types of titles with a grain of salt. Nobody has any type of system to actually rank products in that way. And also, if there are product types that are listed in a public video with lots of views, chances are those ideas are already taken or going to be taken. So I guess I would just keep that in mind when looking through those types of videos online. The best niches are going to be the ones that nobody else has ever heard of or that you've ever heard of. So that said, there are 4 factors I'm going to talk about when choosing a product niche. The first one is peculiarity. The second is price point. Third is necessity, and fourth is competition. So I'll break down the first one, peculiarity. What I mean is how peculiar an item is. So if you place a television next to a steam shower generator, which one would you say is more peculiar? Obviously the answer is the generator. When it comes to high-ticket dropshipping, in general, the more peculiar, the better. That said, you also don't want to choose a product that is so peculiar that only a couple hundred people would have any interest in it or would even search that type of thing on Google every month. You definitely want to think outside the box and kind of look past the obvious. There are product types that exist all over in the world around you, and sometimes it's kind of just about being really observant and taking note of potential ideas. So whether it's while you're out on a drive or at someone's house or wherever you might be, form a habit of paying attention to potential product ideas. So I had a buddy back in high school whose parents had a swim spa, and I was just thinking back about it the other day. It had this pump or like a jet at the end of the swim spa that caused a current to flow, so they could exercise and swim train in it and actually swim against the current. It turns out that jet that produces that current it can be sold on its own. And they're anywhere from $8,000 to like $15,000 a piece. Most people, when looking at that swim spa, they would wonder, I wonder how much that swim spa costs. But what I remembered and what I ended up discovering was, not only is the swim spa expensive, obviously pools are expensive, but just the jet attachment that created that water current was $10,000. So really kind of get in the habit of looking past the obvious and just observing the little things in the world around you that you've probably never thought to think of, and that most certainly most people have never thought of, but some people do buy those things and some people shop for them online. So that's your target audience, and that's kind of the whole bread and butter of high-ticket dropshipping. You're not interested in selling sofas, you're not interested in selling televisions. You're gonna get drowned out of the water by Samsung, by Best Buy, by all the other big name brands under the sun. You want to be much more peculiar than that. Next thing I will talk about is price point. As the name high-ticket dropshipping suggests, the idea is that you are selling expensive items. You might wonder how expensive. If you ask someone in dropshipping that normally sells, say like, $15 products on their store, a high ticket item to them would probably be like $100. When I talk about high ticket dropshipping, what I'm talking about are products that cost anywhere in the range of $1,000 to $15,000 a piece. Because the idea is on Google, you have to advertise with shopping ads and you pay per click. It's called PPC or CPC, cost per click. And sometimes you are spending upwards of $10 a click depending on the niche that you're in. And so if hundreds of people are visiting your website every month, you want the ability to easily make back a ton of your ad spend in a single sale. So I give this example in another video of mine. But say you are spending $100 a day on ads, which if you're a beginner, you're probably not going to be at that point, but at some point you will scale to that point. So I'll just use 100 as an example. If you're spending $100 a day on ads, you sell a $3,000 product, and let's say your margin on the product is $500, and that's pretty conservative. So you just profited $400 on the day with a single sale, even though you're spending $100 on ads that day. And if you look at it on an individual customer acquisition cost, let's say it was $4 for that click. So you spent $4 for that customer to click on your ad, and then they ended up spending $3,000 on your website. You don't have to be a math major to understand that it is a super lucrative model if it's done correctly. That said, there is kind of a sweet spot in my opinion when it comes to price point. I would say in like the $2,500 to $5,500 range is a really good place to be. A good way to find this out with a particular niche is if you just do a Google search of those products and just look at the ads that are already up there for those given products. Pay attention to the average price point, because if those are the ads that are at the top of Google, that means that those companies are designating that much more budget to those particular products to be at the top of Google, which means those are the products that sell. So if that price point is anywhere between, I'll even say like $1,500, even though that's getting kind of low. I would say aim for like $2,500 to $5,500 for a really good sweet spot on price point. Because the goal here is in the margins. You don't want to dedicate all your ad spend to something that costs $500. You also don't want to dedicate your ad spend to something that costs $15,000. The cost of acquisition will be way more for the high one, and you're not going to see enough return on your ad spend for the lower end. The third one I want to talk about is necessity. So as we go into this economic decline, there are certain niches that will definitely be affected. If a certain niche carries kind of a younger demographic, it might suffer more from a recession just because, you know, younger people aren't quite as established as, say, someone that is 60 plus years old. They're gonna be more conservative with their spending until the economy goes back to normal. Niches with products that are more of a necessity versus just kind of a discretionary hobby generally are going to do better in the long run, especially when there's a fluctuating economy. I don't have to really explain to you why it's going to be much more common for that type of product to be purchased during an economic downturn versus something like a greenhouse or a sauna, something that is discretionary and isn't necessary. Not that you shouldn't consider those types of niches, but in my experience, need-based items are always going to prevail better than not necessary items. So not much else to say about that one. I hope that makes sense. Last factor I wanted to talk about is competition. And I guess I'll just make a quick note. These are just 4 of the factors that I look at. If you have any further questions and want me to talk about this more, let me know in the comments. But the 4th one is competition. And this one is really pretty straightforward to get a gauge on. It may come as no surprise to you that lower competition is better for you. Now, the reality is pretty much no matter what niche you get into in this day and age, you're gonna be going up against competition. And at this point, when it comes to e-commerce, every space is way more competitive now than it was 10 years ago. The easiest way, at least that I've discovered, to just take a quick look and get an idea of how competitive something is literally just doing a Google search of the products a few times throughout the day, because Google ads are dynamic, and every time you do a refresh, it's gonna show you different ads from different businesses, or it's gonna rearrange them in different orders. So I would do this just a few times throughout the day and get an average number of how many sellers show up in just the Google Shopping ads. Do that a few times throughout the day and get kind of an average, then compare that to other product types. At least the way that I teach and I run my high ticket dropshipping businesses, the competition that you're gonna be worried about is that of paid advertisements. So if there are less sellers that are competing in the same auction on Google, then that will obviously work better in your favor versus 50 different sellers trying to advertise the same thing. I would say a really good number is anywhere below 20 different sellers selling the same thing. That might sound like a lot, but with high ticket dropshipping specifically, if you are really just focusing on a single product type or 2 different product types with your paid advertisements, it's way easier for you to show up more often towards the top of the page versus if you're spreading your ad spend across like 10 different product types. I hope that was at least an okay breakdown of just the main things that I kind of look at with high ticket dropshipping. I'll wrap up this video by saying once again, thank you for all of the really kind feedback that I've gotten. I would really love if you're a new viewer to the channel, if you either commented or liked the video or subscribed. It encourages me, it helps me out, and it also lets me know if there's a particular topic that you want to hear about. But other than that, we will see you next time.